Laughter echoed off the hardwood floors, like glass breaking. Jordan sat frozen, his fork paused midway to his mouth. Lila's joke about how he probably runs from the police faster than he runs from commitment had landed like a slap dressed as a punchline. Her friends roared. One even added, "You're lucky he didn't steal your purse." More laughter. Jordan smiled. Or at least, he thought he did. That strange, practiced grin he'd learned to wear in white rooms when things turned sharp was a shield. But inside, his stomach curled. His eyes scanned the table. No one else flinched. Just wine-stained teeth and casual cruelty dressed in silk shirts and inside jokes. He swallowed hard. The salmon on his plate suddenly tasteless. The jazz playing overhead felt like mockery now. Smooth, indifferent, disconnected from the small implosion behind his ribs. Later, in the kitchen, he found her refilling a glass. "Lila," he said quietly, "what was that?" She blinked, surprised. What was what? That joke. At the table. She rolled her eyes. "It's just a joke, Jordan. Don't be so sensitive. God." He stared at her. In that moment, she wasn't. His girlfriend she was a mirror of every boss who asked if his hair was a style or a statement. Every teacher who'd assumed he'd cheated because his grammar was too good. He nodded once, slowly, got it. Back at the table, he sat down without touching his plate. The laughter had moved on to other topics. But the joke still hung in. The air like smoke, invisible to them, choking him. He said nothing the rest of the night. But inside, something had changed. And it wouldn't be undone by brunch apologies. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Jordan gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing tethering him to the present. The soft buzz of his phone echoed from the cup holder again. Another text, another call. Lila's name lit up the screen like a warning. He didn't answer. Streetlights flickered past in rhythm. White shadow, white shadow. The city blurred through the windshield. But his thoughts were sharp. This wasn't the first time. There was that dinner with her father when the man chuckled and asked if Jordan had ever been stopped for fitting a description. He'd laughed nervously then, too. Lila had squeezed his hand under the table but said nothing afterward, or the time a server had assumed he couldn't afford the wine list. Lila rolled her eyes and whispered, "Let it go, babe. You'll ruin." The night he had let it go, again and again, because peace mattered, because love was supposed to soften the world's edges. But tonight wasn't a stranger. Tonight was her. The phone buzzed once more, this time a voicemail. "Hey, I'm sorry if that came out wrong. Don't be so sensitive, babe, you know. I didn't mean it like that." He didn't press play again. Outside, rain began to mist the windshield, thin streaks tracing downward like the tears he wouldn't let fall. He turned onto his street, the tires humming quietly over the wet asphalt. The silence in the car was louder than any apology she could offer. He pulled into his driveway, engine still running, hands still tight. Tonight, something broke, not loudly, not with a fight, but with a silence so heavy, even the city lights couldn't brighten it. And in that stillness, Jordan realized this wasn't about one joke. It was about every time he wasn't heard. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. 2 days passed before Jordan responded to anyone. The silence became his shelter. But then, unexpectedly, a message appeared from Alana Lila's friend, the one who had looked away when the joke landed. "Hey, can we talk? I wasn't okay with what happened either." They met at a corner cafe, halfway between casual and quiet. The kind of place where conversations felt private, even in public. Jordan stirred his coffee as Alina sat down, her face uneasy, her eyes avoiding his. "I should have said something that night," she began. "I wanted to, I just ... froze." Jordan didn't speak at first. He let the hum of espresso machines and clinking mugs stretch the moment thin. Finally, he said, "You're the only one who looked embarrassed. That told me a lot." She nodded slowly, steam rising between them. "I've heard her say stuff like that before, little things. I always thought it was just her humor. Or, I didn't want to make it awkward." "That's the thing," Jordan said, tapping his knuckles against his mug. "Awkward for who?" Elena's shoulders sagged under the weight of truth. "I thought if it didn't bother me, it wasn't my place. But it did bother you." She nodded again. "And it should have mattered more than my comfort." 4. The first time since the dinner party, Jordan didn't feel alone in the memory. Not completely. He still didn't have answers. But now he had a witness. And that meant something. As they left, Alina said quietly, "If you ever speak out about it, I'll back you." He didn't say thank you, not because he wasn't grateful, but because he knew now silence was always a choice, and too many people had made the wrong one. The cursor blinked on a blank page. Midnight had passed, but Jordan couldn't sleep, not with everything crowding his chest. He thought back to 4th grade. A white classmate had mimicked a movie's black voice, exaggerated and loud, then turned to Jordan and said, "You sound just like that." The class had laughed. Jordan had too, because he didn't know what else to do. He laughed again at 13 when a coach called him too intense for asking questions. And again at 24 when a client assumed he was the diversity hire and he made a self-deprecating joke to diffuse the tension. Each laugh had cost him something he hadn't yet learned to name, until now. He began to type, "The day I stopped laughing along, they don't always call you less. They just ask you to smile while they hand you smaller things. I used to think staying in the room meant staying quiet, but what good is a seat at the table if you're never served? Dignity, I am not humorless. I am not angry. I am just no longer willing to play along in jokes where I am the punchline and the silence after is supposed to be normal. Dignity should never have to be negotiated." Jordan read the words again. Then once more, he didn't send the post to Lila or to Alina. He hit publish and closed the laptop. Outside, the city hummed low under streetlights. But inside, something had gone quiet. Not with defeat, but with decision. He wasn't seeking apology or validation. He was seeking himself. And now, he was finally listening. The next morning, his inbox held dozens of messages from old colleagues, former classmates, even strangers. He read the subject line on one, "Thank you for saying what I never dared to." He didn't smile, not yet. But he didn't flinch either. Asterisk, asterisk, the doorbell echoed through Jordan's apartment like a challenge. He hesitated. Part of him already knew who it was. He opened the door to see Lila standing there, her eyes red, a bouquet of drooping lilies cradled in her arms like a fragile offering. Rain streaked her coat, and her mascara was smudged like the guilt she wore across her face. "I didn't mean it like that," she said, voice trembling. "I was nervous. I was trying to be funny." Jordan didn't interrupt. He just stood still, the threshold between them as sharp as the pain still blooming in his chest. "I love you," she added softly. "I didn't know. I didn't realize it hurt you like that." He took a deep breath, not to stay calm, but to stay clear. "It's not about whether you meant to hurt me," he said finally. his voice measured. It's about the fact that you did, and you've done it before. Leela's lips parted, as if to protest, but no words came. You want me to tell you it's okay, that we're okay, but I don't need you to cry, he continued. I need you to reflect. A long silence fell. Rain tapped gently at the windows, as if the world outside was listening to Leela. Looked down at the flowers, as if only now realizing how heavy they were. Jordan didn't take them. I can't carry this for you, he added. Not this time. She turned slowly and walked down the hall, her footsteps echoing in the quiet. Jordan closed the door not with anger, but with finality. He didn't feel triumphant, just steady. Some things break, others unfold. And this was something he no longer needed to fix. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The email invite sat in Jordan's inbox for 3 days. We're hosting a day panel next Thursday. Would love for you to share your perspective. He almost deleted it. His thumb hovered over the trash icon. He knew what they wanted and articulate, well-behaved black voice to check the box, to nod politely and say things were getting better. But then he thought of Leela's joke, of the laughter that followed, of the silence that hurt more than any slur, so he replied, yes, but I'll speak my truth. The conference room felt colder than usual. Rows of polished chairs filled with familiar faces, some curious, others guarded. A company banner hung behind him like a quiet dare. He gripped the mic, breathed in when people ask what it's like being black in white spaces. I say it's learning to laugh when you want to scream, he began. It's code switching so fluently you forget your own voice. It's being told you're too sensitive when your dignity's been scraped raw. A hush fell. He didn't stop. It wasn't just the joke that night. It was that everyone laughed, and no one checked on me. A few eyes dropped. Some nodded slowly. One manager shifted in his seat, like the truth made it hotter in there. Not here to make anyone feel guilty, Jordan added. I'm here to make us all responsible. When he finished, the applause didn't explode, it unfolded. Gentle at first, then building. Not performative. And afterward, a colleague approached, voice low. Thank you, you said what I never dared to. Jordan smiled, not with the mask he used to wear, but something steadier. Real. He hadn't just taken the mic. He had reclaimed the whole room. Asterisk, asterisk, the next invitation came quietly, slid into his texts by Malik, a new co-worker from another department. A few of us hanging out at my place Friday night. Chill vibe. Come through. Jordan stared at the message longer than he should have. The old him would have made an excuse. He didn't do casual hangouts anymore, not since the last one left him hollow. But something about Malik's warmth, the way he'd nodded during the day panel, made Jordan say yes. Friday night arrived with the scent of barbecue and the hum of old school R&B vibrating through the walls. Laughter floated from the open door before Jordan even knocked. Inside. The room was cozy, mixed in every sense, faces of different colors and accents, sneakers kicked off, jackets slung over chairs. Someone handed him a soda, and no one asked him to explain his hair or where he was really from. He smiled before realizing it. Conversations flowed easily. Jokes were sharp, but not at anyone's dignity. For a while, Jordan let himself enjoy the moment, let the music wrap around his shoulders like a coat he'd forgotten he owned. Then it happened. One guy, leaning on the kitchen counter with a red cup in hand, cracked a joke about a name one that sounded too black. A few people chuckled, but the laughter didn't catch like wildfire. Jordan didn't laugh. He stood a little straighter. His voice didn't rise, but it didn't tremble either. "We don't laugh at that anymore," he said. The words landed like stones on still water. The guy blinked. It was just as Jordan raised a hand. "No, I get it. You didn't mean anything. But impact matters more than intent. Names carry history. Ours were stolen, remember? What we keep now means everything." Silence, but this time it wasn't awkward, it was reflective. Someone across the room gave a nod. Malik said, "Facts." And just like that, the moment passed not with shame, but with adjustment. Jordan exhaled, long and full. No bitterness, no shrinking. He had spoken from a place of wholeness, not hurt. He looked around not to check reactions, but to take in the quiet acknowledgement. Later, as the evening softened into background music and low voices, a woman approached him. "I appreciated what you said," she murmured. "It's easy to just let stuff slide." Jordan smiled, not out of politeness, but truth, too easy and too costly. He stepped out onto the small patio, the night air cool against his skin. He looked up not at the stars for answers, but because he finally could. His shoulders weren't heavy. His breath came steady. Inside, laughter resumed. But now it was different. It wasn't a shield. It was shared. The joke ended not with a punchline, but with a pause. And Jordan, he didn't just reclaim the room this time. He reclaimed himself.